Pantheism, a belief that all is God, prevailed in numerous ancient cultures. The word comes from the Greek word pan meaning all, and theism, which means belief in God. The belief that the universe itself was divine was normal in the beliefs of the African and American Indian cultures, then later Egyptian religion under the pharaohs, and Buddhism, Confucianism and Taoism in the cultures of the Far East. Pantheistic beliefs are also finding resurgence among various New Age movements. Generally, pantheism is the principle that God is everything, and everything is God. Therefore, nature is also part of God. We must be in harmony with nature. We must nurture it and be nurtured by it. Pantheism is the view that the world is either identical to God, or an expression of God's nature. Mankind is no different than any other animal. We must live in harmony with them, understand them, and learn from them, focusing on the relationship between mankind and the elements of nature. Pantheism is a religion. There are no pantheist churches or services, and it's not even clear if there are any particular pantheist rituals or practices. Love of nature is often associated with pantheism, but that does not seem to be a central tenet of the religion. Self-professed pantheists like Wordsworth, Whitman, and other Romantic poets certainly had a deep love of nature, but that was not necessarily the case for pantheists like Spinoza and Lao Tzu. Nevertheless, for some pantheists the idea that nature is something that inspires awe, wonder, and reverence is important. This attitude toward nature is perhaps what motivates many contemporary pantheists to identify themselves as such. It is no coincidence that there are strong ties between pantheism and the ecology movement. Pantheists generally are strong supporters of scientific inquiry, as well as religious toleration. The belief system grew out of the scientific revolution. They view God as immanent. In being immanent, God is present in all things. God didn't make the earth or define gravity, but, rather, God is the earth and gravity and everything else in the universe. Because God is uncreated and infinite, the universe is likewise uncreated and infinite. God did not choose one day to make the universe. Rather, it exists precisely because God exists, since the two are the same thing. Pantheists are generally strong supporters of scientific inquiry. Since God and the universe are one, understanding the universe is how one comes to better understand God. Because all things are God, all things are connected and ultimately are of one substance. While various facets of God have defining characteristics, they are parts of a greater whole. As a comparison, you might consider the parts of the human body. Hands are different from feet, which are different from lungs, but all are part of the greater whole that is the human form. Pantheism is above all a profoundly emotional response to nature and the wider universe. It accepts that these are the only reality that we can truly know, the only reality that truly matters, the only reality we have to relate to. They are the place we arose, the place we belong, the context of our daily lives. We are at home here. That emotional response has two primary elements. One is a sense of awe, wonder, reverence and acceptance of the natural universe, based on its power and beauty and mystery. The other is a sense of belonging, of community with the starry skies, with all living beings and with our own bodies. This sense is the basis for statements about the unity of all things, and about the unity of the individual with the whole. It is the basis on which pantheists can talk about and experience union with the whole, similar to the experiences of mystics in all spiritual traditions. So, pantheism is the belief that everything somehow is a part of God. Our galaxy, the stars, our solar system, all living things, all thoughts, all people, everything is part of who or what God is. Much of the pantheistic view can be summed up in the statement, all is God, and God is all. Idealistic pantheism teaches that just as the human soul or mind resides in the human body, the universal soul or mind, i.e. God, resides in the physical universe. God infuses, works through, and expresses the divine essence through the material world. Ultimate reality is found, therefore, not in the material world, but in the spiritual world. Some go so far as to say that the physical world is merely an illusion, either God's or mine, in which I play my part. The sum of all thoughts and feelings is therefore God. Pantheism is the belief that God equals the universe. The word God, on this view, is just another word for nature or everything that exists. If you take everything in the universe, all the humans, planets, stars, galaxies, alien creatures, dirt clods, etc., and add it all up, what you get is God. In this sense, pantheism has only one God, and therefore it's a form of monotheism. However, since pantheism implies that every part of nature is divine, most pantheistic religions recognize a variety of nature spirits. It is a kind of nature worship, but in a very special sense. To pantheists, nature doesn't just mean wild mountains, lakes, and trees. Nature includes everything that exists: human beings, cities, computers, asteroids, songs, nuclear waste, and supernovas. In pantheism, God is the sum total of all these things, not just the pretty or unpolluted parts. Let's finish with something from William Blake, and his book, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. The prophets Isaiah and Ezekiel dined with me, and I asked them how they dared so roundly to assert that God spoke to them, and whether they did not think at the time that they would be misunderstood, and so be the cause of imposition. Isaiah answered, I saw no God, nor heard any, in a finite organical perception, but my senses discovered the infinite in everything, and as I was then persuaded, and remain confirmed, that the voice of honest indignation is the voice of God, I cared not for consequences but wrote.